Here we have the beautiful Tesla Model 3, and this is actually the dual motor. Now, of course, these cars start at approximately $58,000 US. As well, you can get a base model Tesla Model 3 for approximately $49,000. Today, we are going to dive in some of the exterior features that you're going to find on these cars, some interesting quirks, my personal thoughts on a lot of the exterior elements. We're going to look through the interior, talk about some of the features, some of my personal favorite attributes, and of course some things that I find just a little bit awkward and quirky. And most importantly, we're going to go for a drive. Let's get into it now. Okay, so in the extended range dual motor like we have right here, these actually have two motors. We have a front, we have an AC motor, of course, and we also have a synchronous AC permanent magnet motor at the back, and those are driving all four wheels. We also have the increased battery size because these cars actually are good for the extended range. And we'll talk about some of the performance attributes. As you know, nobody talks about Tesla being slow, so we'll get to that when we go for the drive. But let's get on looking at the front of the car and the exterior in general. Here we have these beautiful headlights. I love the Tesla lights. They've always looked very creamy, smooth, silky, frankly, very unique, and nobody mistakes a Tesla headlight. Now, as we move to the front here, hey, no grill. Why is that? Well, there's no internal combustion engine, and there's no need to cool this car like you would with a standard ICE engine. And we go around here, love the flares. I've always really enjoyed the look of the Teslas. A little cab high in my opinion, but this beautiful look. You see these lines that run down all the way and then they flow right into the doorway. Beautiful lines here. Here we have Continental 20-inch rubber slapped on this Tesla style wheel. Gorgeous touch right there. And you've got the wonderful Tesla brake calipers right down here in the front. And here what we have is a camera. Now this is mounted midway here on this fender, whereas a lot of cars, they put their fancy little logos and emblems and vents. Here Tesla uses this for a reason. There's actually a camera mounted in here, but that camera is used for a lot of purposes. There's cameras and sensors throughout the vehicle, and it's actually used for that Sentry mode, which you can program on the big iPad screen. And that's essentially to capture any kind of ill effects. Somebody maybe trying to break into the car, trying to damage it, cause you some kind of issues. And of course, that will assist you doing that. It will record it and you can download that video to a USB. So here we go. Of course, we have this newer style handle. This is a little different than the X Plaid like we drove before. This here is quite straightforward. Press the button, pull it, and away you go. Quite simple, very clean and effective. Here we have more sensors and cameras to contribute for this sensory overload that is a Tesla. Okay, and then as we circle around, I can't help but notice this beautiful pane of glass that runs all the way from the back, all the way mid-car, and that gives a massive amount of sunlight in for the rear passengers. Of course, at the back here, you've got nice additional touches. You've got a little ducktail here, gives it a sporting look. And as usual, Tesla always has these beautiful LED style taillights. No incandescent light bulbs going on here. No, this is just a blank plate. On the driver's side of the car, this opens up to expose the charging port right there. And then as we circle around, the same provisions apply here. But you'll notice on the roof line here, we have another additional large glass panel, which does facilitate additional lighting into the cabin for the front passengers. And then under the hood here, pop this, release it from the big iPad screen, and there we can expose ourselves to a small trunk space. Plastic, you can put any goods that might, be a little rougher, you don't necessarily want in the car. Nice plastic liner. Of course, here we have the Tesla charger, which charges you from a 120 volt plug-in. The receptacle in your house, for example, will get this car fully charged in approximately a day and a half. It's a long charge, but it gets the job done. That's that. We have a small tow hook in here, and any other incidentals can be chucked in there if you want to just get down and dirty. And then over here, what we have is the trunk, and it's huge. I mean, I can even get right in there like this. Holy, look at this. You could haul a few people in here with ease. This is actually not a 5 passenger. This can be a 7 passenger or more. Just kidding. Don't try this at home, kidlings. There is a lot of room available to put your goodies in here. Now we open this up, and there's more additional space down below. You can throw your charger in there or whatever kind of junk you want to hide away. Boom, done. Good to go. And then you have this wonderful little button, walk away. Gives you a little warning so nobody's underneath and gets crushed. Let's slide on in here behind the wheel. So what we have here, I love the touch here. It's not as crispy as you get in, say, some of the Audis or the Lexuses even for that matter, or BMWs, but it isn't cheap. It actually does have a nice pliable feeling to it. I know you've got this beautiful wood grain, absolutely luscious, and nice little chrome or essentially brushed aluminum, sort of accenting the rest of the residual interior here. Of course, you've got a small little rear view mirror, clean, just unobtrusive. And of course, if you look at this, gotta like this, if you got the sun in your eyes, that does help to keep that out. And if you flip that down, you're good to go. And I'm looking over at the door panel, beautiful stitching on the handles. Not sure if it's fake or not, but it does feel nice to the touch. And there's sort of a nice, pliable, rubbery feel to it. You've got a few basic controls on the door handle. One is to open the door electrically. There you go, you're good. But what if your battery dies? Well, there's actually a backup plan. You can actually reach under here, and there's another manual mechanical release to get out of the car. Here you have your 4 door controls, left, right, rear, left, right in the back as well. They're all right here for the driver to control. Steering wheel is very basic. The signal switch is very nice, pliable. Two-tone basically gives it a little extra feeling and nice texturing. And of course, here we have the stock. Pretty simple. Right here, it says reverse, neutral, drive, and cruise control. And here by pressing the button, this puts the vehicle into park, essentially non-mobile. Here, the steering wheel feels very nice to the grip. Tesla, love that logo. And it's very simplistic. You have 2 little knobs and dials here, and it's as simple as going into your control screen, and now you're able to activate different things. So for example, steering, I'm able to go into steering mode, and then this little button does alter the steering wheel up and down or in and out. You can do a few different controls with that. You X out, and for example, you want to do mirrors, you can do the same sort of thing. You can change your mirrors via this one little knobby. It's a very flexible little functionality right there. Right here on this one, you're able to adjust directly how far the cruise control or the adaptive cruise control follows the people in front of you. You can change that by going left to right, but everything does run through this centralized control panel, which does pose some challenges if this thing goes awry. Down here, we have a couple of cordless wireless phone chargers. Put it on there, it kicks in, it just starts charging. Handy, handy, handy. Why doesn't every car brand think of that kind of scenario? There we have this, beautiful, ginormous, you can fit a ton of junk down there, and it just flows closed nicely. Of course, a couple cup holders, this flips up, and you got lots of space. Again, throw the kitchen sink in there for all you need. Down in here, we also have a little insert here. We have a DC plug for any of your auxiliaries that you might want to plug into there, and boom, done. Bob's your uncle. Of course, here we have a glove box. You have to activate it via the controls on the panel. The vents in these cars are actually buried within the dashboard. You don't see them, but they're fully controllable via the actual control panel here. And so down here, you can activate those controls by going right into there. It gives you the full control panel. And now you can actually change the flow, the direction with the stroke of a finger on the pad there. Of course, the volume of it as well as the direction of it can all be done by just adjusting those controls. Turn down the speed on the fan, quieten it down, make it nice. Of course, you got heated seats down here you can activate at the touch of a button, and it's all very tactile. Everything works very nice. You even have dog mode there, so in case your pet's in the vehicle, you're able to make sure that it allows for the right amount of cooling so the dogs don't die from dehydration and heat. It's a smart little feature. I personally still wouldn't necessarily trust it. It is technology, but if your batteries die, your dog goes with it. You can have a little fun with some of the additional controls in here. Now you can do light show. You start the button, and lo and behold, and then you can go to the boombox section. Gives you a lot of other functionality here. You go click on the horn sound, then you can do this drop down. You can try some different things. And not only that, so then you can try some other things. Of course, you can do emissions. That's where you can actually make your friends who sit in the back sound like they're blowing a ripper. And you can do your passenger. What are you doing? Why are you stinking up the car? Tracks, make music, and you have this romantic little fireplace. So beautiful. And it actually blows heat out and heats up the seats and makes you feel like you're actually in front of a warm fire like this. It's beautiful. Absolutely romantic. If If you stroke down on the controls, you can see you can do all kinds of different things. We go to pedals and steering. Of course, acceleration, you go chill mode for Little Miss Daisy, absolutely. Or you go standard mode. And of course, if you have the plaid, for example, in the X or the S, you can get the plaid mode. You can go full on, full bore. Here, steering, you can adjust it for a very comfortable level, standard and as well sport. Gives it a very tactile feel there as well. And stopping mode definitely allows you to roll, kind of gives the car more of a natural feel to it. So the car is very configurable, feels very natural. And the only thing not natural is the sense that you don't hear an engine run. What is interesting enough, though, is when you get up in the morning and if conventionally you'd get in your car and you feel like you have to run it for 30 seconds or a minute and then zoom off because oil pressure has to build and the coolant and the oil has to get warm. You don't have to do that here. Get in, drive, and go. Another great feature in here, of course, is all of this glass panel. It's so bright, but yet a lot of the UV radiation is actually cut down by that special coating on this glass. All right. And now we get into the back. And it's nice back here. It's cozy. You know, I would say anybody up to probably 6'1" is probably okay here. It's a little bit of punishment for a full-size large adult, but certainly it does work. And, you know, honestly, I love the lighting back here. The fact that this is all one sheet does really open things up and feels very, very nice back here. And again, I have to add that they've got that coating on this glass so you don't feel like you're getting a sunburnt and you don't get out after a 4-hour drive and you have a burnt nose, because there is some protection UV radiation. You do also have these great little lights here. If you're back here, you're doing something, you need to fiddle around, you can turn that on and it's just kind of in your lap. It's where everything typically is. It also helps you look into the pockets that are located on the backs of the seats. Very nice touch. That's great. Here, of course, we also have this wonderful little pull down and you're good. You've got a couple of cup holders here for you and your passenger here in the middle. If for some reason you have a third little hooligan that's joining along, you do have a third set of seat belts, and there's of course tie downs for all the little chitlins if you've got baby seats in here. It's a great touch, great feel, and it is a pleather. It's not leather. It does feel very nice and guaranteed it's going to wear well. So after, you know, 120,000 kilometers, maybe 60, 70, 80,000 miles, you're not going to see all those wrinkles and creases that you typically find with leather. I guarantee you this vehicle is built to last. And not only that, I look on the side panels and it's beautiful. They have this nice little Alcantara or synthetic material that does sort of break up the look. It's beautiful. I love that they did this, and it really does add an element of quality to the interior. It does sort of break it up. Now, I'm personally not a fan of all black like this. However, this is nice. It's going to wear well and it looks great. Unoffensive, easy to sell. And of course you have the great little controls back here for heating. You've got a couple separate little vents for the two passengers that are typically going to be riding in the back. You have a little bit of functionality there. And what do we have here? Oh, look at this beautiful little hook here. Hang your purse, suit jacket, maybe a dress, anything. Maybe a hockey jersey, whatever. You can hang it up here. It's great. And then it tucks away nice and neat. All right, so off we set in this beautiful brand new Tesla Model 3, but this is the extended range unit, and it has equipped with the dual motor. Of course, you can get the base model, which is rear-wheel drive only, has a smaller battery, and there's different variations within that. But this one has the larger battery for the extended range and promises a range of approximately 85 mpge. And more importantly, you can get approximately 310 miles on a full charge, on a full range, which is actually not a bad place to be because, you know, it does get you to major cities. Between cities, you know, generally in well-populated areas, that's going to cover your bases. Now, you have two motors. You have an AC motor up front. You have a synchronous motor, permanent magnet on the back. And it's all driving these four wheels, clawing at the pavement at the best that they can. And clearly these cars have intense torque, but it's impressive how it manages to grab the asphalt and launches you forward. No muss, no fuss, no wheel spin to speak of. Now what we do actually have is a car that can launch from 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 4 seconds flat. Quarter mile, about 12.5, and I can remember back my Lamborghini Gallardo had virtually the same numbers. So this is every bit what the Lambo is, but there's no oil changes or coolant leaks or any of that nonsense. It's just plug it in and drive it. It's an appliance, sure. It lacks some of the sounds that you're getting, but it's absolutely great. It's mesmerizing. The way the car just picks up and accelerates the way that it does. It's very, very impressive. I mean, we're driving some back roads here now. could barely hear anything much more than a slight amount of wind noise or the tire rolling on the asphalt, but it is very, very subtle and subdued. It's actually very nice in that regard. It's smooth, and of course, because the adjustability within the steering controls on your centralized pad, you're able to get a fair amount of variability in there. You can get very quick steering. Right now it's on sport, so it's a very slow, almost direct steering, but it's crisp. The steering handles well. And to note, because the batteries and motors are very low in the chassis, it gives you that low center of gravity, allows it to handle very, very well, and it does handle very well. It also provides flatter floorboards for, passengers in the back, gives them a little extra footroom. There's none of those humps because of, transmission or exhaust that needs to be, made space for. You don't have any of that. It's just a flat floorboard. It's very, very efficient in that regard. And it just allows for, more versatility within the cabin. Not just, of course, the fact that you're going to use far less fuel. Even if on a charge, it's not going to use a lot of fuel. It's a great packaging, and the car is amazing to drive. So it's quiet, handles well. The brakes are pretty much what you'd expect for your average garden variety car. I wouldn't say that it's in line with anything, for example, like M-Car BMW. I'd say it's more in line with, their mainstream cars, 330 series cars, things like that, or any other mainstream car that has moderate brakes. It brakes well, it does its job, but they're not oversized clampers like you find in a lot of, carbon ceramic brakes like you find in a Ferrari. You don't get that here. You don't need that here, particularly in this vehicle. Although with that said, in the Tesla Model X Plaid that I drove a couple weeks back, you really could use carbon ceramic in that car. But this car, it's just about right. So it has amazing acceleration. And here we go. We're driving along, and what's really impressive, because it's a direct drive, it's essentially one gear, and it's go. So as you pick up speed, it gets even more jam. So we punch it. Oh, whoa, yes. And so what's even more impressive is the way this thing accelerates, really, on the fly. I mean, everybody knows they have the instant torque blast out of the hole. They do amazing out of the hole. They're great. They have immense power. But it's even more impressive when you're doing 100 kilometers an hour or 80. You're doing 80 and you punch the throttle, put your foot to the floor, and all of a sudden you're experiencing this massive thrust forward, almost like a little rocket ship. It almost defies physics. I mean, there's very few internal combustion vehicles that I've driven that have that level of thrust at that type of speed. I mean, there's a lot of cars that come hard out of the hole, but these Teslas manage to do that even on the fly. And a lot of that part and parcel is this severe torque that you get from the motors combined with that linear direct drive just gives you a sensation you just don't get. You just do not get anywhere else. So it's an amazing driving experience, phenomenal, outrageous mileage, and quite frankly, it's something that's super easy to live with. And let's face it, Tesla really are the pioneers, and quite frankly, you could tell they've really worked on a lot of the bugs. Sure, there's the discussions about quality control and little gap issues. I would say that this Tesla Model 3 has even less gap issues than I've noticed on other models, and even less gap issues than we noticed on the Model X. There's almost very, very few issues that I'm noticing in terms of quality control, fit and finish. Panels feel pretty solid. The dash is a little bit, there's a little bit of a hollow sensation to it, but overall, the interior is well put together, and I would say they've come leaps and bounds ahead of where they used to be. Now, there's discussions about NHTSA and some of the quality control issues that have plagued some of these Teslas, but they are getting better, in fact, no doubt about it. And this car really has very few bugs to speak of. This car ranks very highly. It's fun, it's reliable, and it's practical. Hard not to love these cars, the Tesla Model 3 with the extended range and the dual motor configuration. And with all of that said, I hope you liked it. I love it. I liked it so much. In fact, I may even buy one myself. But if you want to see more, I actually did a recent review on the Tesla Model X Plaid. That's right, 1,020 horsepower. Right there, you're going to want to check that out. That car is breathtaking, to say the least. It's like a roller coaster ride. Hope you check it out, and we'll talk to you guys on the next one. See you real soon. Bye-bye.